गुड मॉर्निंग। बहुत अच्छा मौसम है एंड इट्स नॉट वेरी कोल्ड, इट्स जस्ट अबाउट फाइन। एंड जेंटलमैन, मैं आज के साथ आज आपके साथ बात करने वाला हूँ और वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक जहाँ तक हिंदुस्तान का सवाल है। आई एम गोइंग टू टॉक टू यू अबाउट द इनॉग्रेशन ऑफ द राम टेम्पल जो आज हो रहा है। खैर, आप जानते हो कि मैं अभी हिंदुस्तान में नहीं हूँ, मैं हिंदुस्तान से बाहर हूँ, बट आई एम कीपिंग ए ट्रैक ऑफ वॉट एवर इज़ गोइंग ऑन इन इंडिया। तो इंडिया, आप जानते हो, बहुत ही इम्पॉर्टेंट नेशन है। इट इज़ ए वेरी इम्पॉर्टेंट कंट्री। एट द सेम टाइम एक बहुत बड़ा फेस्टिवल हो रहा है हिंदूज़ के लिए। हिंदूज़ जो है वर्ल्ड में, दे आर मोर देन 1.6 बिलियन। और ये चंद आदमी नहीं है कि थोड़े से इधर बैठे हुए हैं। हिंदुस्तान, वर्ल्ड में हिंदुज़म छाई हुई है। एंड जेंटलमैन, हिंदुस्तान के एक बहुत उत्तम पुरुष थे, ए वेरी वेरी ग्रेट मैन, जिसको ऑलमोस्ट गॉड के बराबर पोजीशन दी जाती है, एंड ही इज़ राम। राम हिस्टोरिकल फिगर है, ही इज़ नॉट ए मिथ, एंड ही वॉज अ एक्चुअल रूलर ऑफ नॉर्थ इंडिया विद हिज कैपिटल एट अयोध्या। एंड उनकी जो राजधानी थी, जो कैपिटल था, दैट इज़ अयोध्या। आई हैव बीन देयर। It's about 130 miles from Lucknow, and the nearest town is Faizabad, जहाँ एक कोर ऑफ मिलिट्री पुलिस सेंटर एंड स्कूल होता था पहले अंग्रेज़ों के ज़माने का। दैट हैज़ नाउ शिफ्टेड टू बेंगलुरु, बट वहाँ अभी भी डिविजनल हेडक्वार्टर्स है। जेंटलमैन, मैं ये बताना चाहता हूँ कि ये जो अयोध्या जगह है, इट इज़ वन ऑफ द वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट प्लेसेस एज फार एज इंडिया इज़ कंसर्न। पीपल से इट्स द बर्थ प्लेस ऑफ राम, पर मेरे ख्याल में उनकी बर्थ प्लेस नहीं है। बर्थ प्लेस कोई दूसरी जगह थी, नेपाल में, बट मोस्ट ऑफ हिज टाइम ही स्पेंट इन अयोध्या। एंड ही ब्रॉट अबाउट व्हाट इज कॉल्ड राम राज्य। राम राज्य मीन्स जहाँ ट्रूथ और जस्टिस राज करता है। सो बेसिकली वी हैव टू अप्रिशिएट दैट लॉर्ड राम जो थे, ही ब्रॉट इन ट्रूथ एंड जस्टिस। दैट इज नंबर वन. Number two, he brought in tolerance. Number three, he brought in chivalry and the art of war. ये भी मत भूलिएगा, बिकॉज जो एक राजा थे श्रीलंका के, his name was Raman, and he actually had gone for the Swayamvar of Sita, where he had lost. Sita was the wife of Ram, and it was always in his mind he wanted Sita, and he kidnapped her by ruse. That's a different story. But as far as I'm concerned, he took her to Sri Lanka, and Ram took a massive army there, went all the way from Ayodhya, crossed the Palk Strait, and rescued Sita. He was a warrior also, and he was adept at using the bow and arrow. He was a specialist in that. So we must all feel proud of this man. All Hindus, in fact, I will not say Hindus, all people in the world, because if he killed only an enemy or a man who was outside the realm of God's law. He was extremely just in his rule, and he was a man you could look forward to and follow. In fact, he was the epitome of goodness, and no wonder he has been elevated to the level of God, though he was not God himself. Now, this is a important point. He is not a idol which you worship in a temple or something like this, a real figure, but you can have his icon in the temple and worship it. Now, this temple, which was there in Ayodhya, had existed for hundreds of years till the Mughal Emperor Babur came. And he sent one of his generals there who raised this temple to the earth, burnt it, and top of it made a mosque, which is called the Babri Masjid. Now, this masjid was also not a masjid in the strict sense, because a masjid becomes one which is holy if prayers are held there regularly. My information goes that no prayers were ever held in this masjid for centuries, and it just remained like a old forlorn structure. And finally, the Mughals, that is the Muslims, were defeated, and the British Raj came in again and the status quo continued. At that time, the Hindus were under great pressure by being subjugated by the Muslim rulers. They had to pay jizya tax and whatnot. So they were very happy to get out of the clutches of the Muslims, and perhaps at that time they did pay attention to the fact that such a holy place had been destroyed by Babur. Now, I have nothing against Babur because, see, this was the historical law in those days that when you won a war and you defeated an enemy, you destroyed the vestiges of that enemy's palaces, places of worship, etc. So Babur did what was being done by other rulers at that time. But over the period of time, it was imperative that the Hindus should reclaim this temple back and reconstruct it. When India became free in 1947, this was something that should have been on the agenda. But before that, I will draw your attention to another fact. There was a similar temple at Somnath which had been broken a number of times by Mahmud Ghazni. And in 1947, the then Home Minister Sardar Patel, who was from Gujarat, was very keen that the Somnath temple, which is close to Porbandar, should be restored. But we had, as usual, as I've told you, a man who lived in a dream world, he had no sense or no idea what is strategic environment, what is a historical wrong. He knew nothing about it. He was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and he opposed the reconstruction of the temple at Somnath. Now, this is a fact of history which I am stating. But Sardar Patel, the Home Minister, was very keen it should be constructed, and so the sanction was given to construct the Somnath temple. In 1950, the temple was ready, but unfortunately, Sardar Patel died of a heart attack. Then the question came, who's going to open that temple? Nehru was of the view that the temple should be just allowed to open on its own and there should be no ceremony, nothing like that, And he was talking all nonsense, of course, as he's been doing on so many other fields. And the then president was Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who was a devout Hindu. He told Nehru that he will go to inaugurate the temple. At that time, Nehru opposed Rajendra Prasad, told him, don't go. It will send a bad message of India being a secular state. Now, I think Nehru was confused on what is secularism. Secularism doesn't mean appeasement, and what Nehru was talking of was appeasement. Anyway, Rajendra Prasad, to his credit, ignored Nehru, went for the opening of the temple, and he gave a wonderful speech there. And the sad part is that Nehru ordered All India Radio at that time, there's no television, not to broadcast that speech, and the speech was not broadcast. I'm bringing out this analogy to the opposition of the Congress party now, similarly to the opening of the temple at Ayodhya. That by a Supreme Court judgment, majority judgment, that included a Muslim judge, I think, the Babri Masjid was given some other land away from the city, and they were told to construct a mosque there, and the Supreme Court gave the sanction to open or construct a Hindu temple at that spot. So obviously the temple is now ready, and at least it will be ready in another 2 years' time, but there has to be an opening ceremony. And everybody likes to make some political gain out of it, and there's nothing wrong with it. And the Bharatiya Janata Party is taking some political mileage out of it. It's but natural. And Narendra Modi, the Indian Prime Minister, is there for the opening of the ceremony today. And there are hundreds of people from all over the globe who have come. And let me tell my listeners that there have been gifts even coming from Afghanistan and Pakistan for this temple, which has been being opened today. There are a few disgruntled Hindus, like the Shankarcharyas, who are not going. But then we all know that the Shankarcharyas have lost their relevance because they let Hinduism down. They allowed Hinduism to go to seed, and yet these fellows are talking of being the custodians of Hindu religion, which they are not. So, gentlemen, let's forget about them. There are umpteen other persons, millions of them, who are going to feel extremely happy at the opening of the Ram temple today. And the sad part दोस्तों ये है कि राहुल गांधी एंड हिज मदर सोनिया गांधी जो कैथलिक हैं एंड वो सिर्फ कैथलिज्म में बिलीव करती हैं एंड वो ये हुजूरी करते हैं पोप की रोम में. शी इज़ ऑल्सो नॉट गोइंग टू कम एंड दैट इज़ द वेरी सैड थिंग बट यू हैव टू टेक इट. और जिस तरीके से नेहरू ने अपोज किया था द ओपनिंग ऑफ द सोमनाथ टेम्पल, सिमिलरली द कांग्रेस इज अपोजिंग इट नाउ. पर उस टाइम डॉक्टर राजेंद्र प्रसाद खड़े हो गए थे नेहरू के अगेंस्ट. Similarly now Narendra Modi has stood against the bigotry of the Congress party. And it is a good thing that the Congress party should be exposed as a pseudo-secular organization. And the minority community must realize कि कांग्रेस ने 75 years हिंदुस्तान पे राज किया है और इस 75 years में उनको क्या मिला है भाई. I want some minority people to tell me कि हमें ये मिला है. They got nothing. They got backwardness. They got no representation in the services. They got nothing, and most of them became smugglers and pimps and some nonsense they were doing because there is no job for them. And this is the contribution of the Congress party, which is now talking of secularism, which is talking that we are looking after the backward caste or the scheduled caste. This is total arrant nonsense. Nehru laid the foundations of this, and he is going to sow the reaps. So whatever you sow, you reap the whirlwind, and he's going to reap, the Congress is going to reap the whirlwind now in the next election. And I think if God wills, they'll be wiped out from India. Coming down to God Ram, I think he is one man who lived in an age when there was polygamy, yet he had only one wife, and that was Sita. That's why we say that Ram is the epitome of justice, the epitome of goodness, and the epitome of good governance. And the Ram Rajya which we talk of must be brought here in India. Ram is for the entire world. He is not confined to Ayodhya or India or something like that. He is someone who is omnipresent because goodness, he represents goodness. He is the representative of God, and we consider him as an equivalent to God. Even in the Dasam Granth, Guru Gobind Singh mentioned that Ram and Krishna were avatars. So, who is an avatar? Avatar is a person who is a representative of God. Like the Buddha was an avatar. He is the last avatar of Hinduism. He brought about many reforms in Hinduism, but Hinduism didn't accept it, so the Buddhists formed their own sect, their own religion. And who are the people who opposed him? The Shankarcharyas. And now they are should be put in cold storage and told to relax there. So gentlemen, it's a very happy day for us. I think I'm also going to light some candles today in honor of the temple which is opening. It's a historical wrong which has been set aside, and I hope we will now move forward and there will be tolerance from the minorities, tolerance from the majority community. India has to move forward. We can't look back, and I hope we do away with the caste system, bring Buddha back. And people like the Shankarcharyas, well, India is a free country. They can go on and do what they feel like doing. Gentlemen, I hope you like my video. आप शेयर करिए अपने दोस्तों के साथ. Please come back for some more interesting topics. In the meanwhile, I'll say goodbye. God bless. Take care. And भूलना मत, सब्सक्राइब करिए.